This is Jerry Stinson from Bristol District. I called in just a moment ago.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. This is
Good morning.
hello.
Marty Williams.
Hey, Marty Dixon.
Cedric Rucker.
Ray Smoot.
Mary Hines.
Jerry Stinson.
Again, John Malvin.
Hi, everyone. Steve Rich. Just wanted to let you know that I just spoke with the secretary. As soon as she gets on, we'll wait for her to do a roll call, and Carol will do the roll call when everyone gets on. online, so no.
Commissioner, this is Rob Terry, I'm on as well.
Good morning, everybody. It's Shannon. I'm on. Can you all hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
Madam Secretary.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Would you like me to begin the roll call?
Please.
Okay.
Sure.
Cedric Rucker,
Here.
Chet Miller,
Here.
Jerry Stinson,
Here.
Carlos Brown, Scott Casperlin, John Malbin,
Here.
Allison DeTunk,
Here.
Dixon Whitworth,
Here.
Marty Williams,
Here.
Greg Yates, Mary Hines,
Here.
Stephen Johnson, Bert Dotson, Raymond Smoot,
Here.
Shannon Valentine,
Here.
Steve Britch,
Here.
Jennifer Mitchell.
Here.
I'm going to go through the ones that did not respond earlier, but *6 to unmute your lines. Scott Kasperlitz. Okay,
Here.
thank you. Greg Yates,
Sorry about that. This system had muted.
I'm here in isolation.
Stephen Johnson, Bert
Hey,
Dotson,
Madam Secretary, I had to hit *6 to unmute myself. I don't know if anybody else is having the same problem.
Okay, I'll just remind everybody that when you joined, you were automatically muted. Mute *6. And if you are not speaking, it is best if you mute your line.
Madam
Okay.
Secretary, is to remute the same process *6?
You know, I just use the mute button on my phone.
it's the same process to mute your line has to unmute, *6.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody.
This is Bert Dotson. Y'all get me?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask that everybody mute and welcome. Welcome to, actually, it's our first emergency electronic meeting where all of us are joining electronically. These are very unusual times, and again, I will just say to you that I am so looking forward to a regular convening of our meeting. So I hope you are as well. Before we proceed, I just wanted to ask Julie Whitlock from the Attorney General's office to just go over some major principles of the meeting, and then we will proceed. Julie, are you there? Julie, you just need to *6 to unmute.
Sorry sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, great. So good morning, everyone. Yeah, so as the secretary mentioned, this is the first emergency electronic meeting. You may recall there was a regular electronic meeting held previously. So FOIA allows both types. If you have a regular electronic meeting, there must be a quorum physically assembled in one place. If you are having an emergency meeting, you are not required to have a quorum physically assembled. And in fact, that's one of the requirements for having an emergency electronic meeting is that it is, looking for the year, it is impracticable or unsafe to assemble a quorum in a single location. So FOIA anticipates that there may be a need for an emergency meeting, requires that the governor must have declared a state of emergency, that there, again, must make it impracticable or unsafe to assemble a quorum. And the third prong is that the purpose of the meeting must be to address the emergency. So as you can imagine, a lot of discussion over the last several weeks from various agencies and boards about what does all of that mean? Can we meet electronically when the governor tells us we're not supposed to be gathering? So the Attorney General issued an official opinion recently that looked at these for emergency meetings and decided, advised that you can have a meeting during this coronavirus, but the topics on the agenda have to be limited to those things that require an immediate decision, and where failure to make an immediate decision could result in irrevocable public harm. So that's the reason for such a short agenda today. And while you won't see routine things like approving prior meeting minutes would not be on the agenda because those would not fall into the criteria for needing immediate action. So that is what's going on today. And I believe that you've got the public was able to call in. They can be listening. And Madam Secretary, I think this is also being recorded. So did you want to remind everybody of that as well?
Yes, it's being streamed now so that people can listen.
Yeah. So that's all I have to say, unless you have any questions about, are we able to do this? So previously, you may remember when we had your electronic meeting before, there was some confusion over what could be discussed, whether a quorum could be held, but whether a quorum was required. But now it's clear the Attorney General has opined that we are in a time of emergency, and it is appropriate to have these all virtual meetings.
Okay, Julie, thank you so much. Does anyone else have a question for Julie? Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Mitchell.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and members of the board. This morning we have an item that we're bringing to you, which is related to distribution of federal funding under the CARES Act to rural and small urban transit systems in Virginia. On March 27th, the President signed the CARES Act into law. It provides $25 billion in federal transit assistance to support capital, operating, and other expenses to respond and prepare for the response to COVID-19. These funds are provided at a 100% federal matching share, therefore requiring no tax. The CARES Act has allocated a total of $456 million to Virginia to support these critical transit needs. The majority of this funding, $356 million, is apportioned directly from FTA to our large urban areas, therefore requires no action by the CTB. Those agencies will all apply directly to FTA for funding. $47 million of these funds, which are allocated under what's called the Section 5307 program, is apportioned to small urban agencies across the Commonwealth. And because these are shown in our 6-year plan, we need to provide confirmation of the allocation of that funding between these agencies. So the recommended allocations to the small urban agencies generally follow the federal formula, and this action will allow them to apply directly to FTA to access this funding. For the federal funding for rural transit agencies, this is referred to as our Section 5311 transit funding. Those are allocated and managed directly by DRPT, and that's included includes 51 million. This time that we allocate 50% of the CARES Act funding proportionally, and as the proportion is going to be based on our FY20 federal operating assistance formula to rural agencies to support their operating costs. So the amount that we're proposing to allocate today, we believe will carry these funds, these agencies well into FY21. We are also recommending that 15% of the CARES Act funding be allocated to support operating costs of the Virginia Breeze intercity bus program. And this is in accordance with the current federal requirements for the 5311 program. At this point, we recommend that we withhold 53% to be held in reserve to address additional needs as they arise. The resolution delegates authority for approving these additional awards to the DRPT director, and we will report back to you on a monthly basis as these funds are programmed. So with that, I request approval of the resolution for adding these projects to the FY20 6-year plan.
Jennifer, thank you very much. Before we move on with, I do know that in order to move into the electronic meeting, I am going to need action from the board that we move into this session. Carol, are you there?
I'm here.
Madam Secretary, can you hear me?
I can, Mr. Whitworth, it's so nice to hear your voice.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to move that we adopt this agenda as required. It must be taken immediately, and where failure to do so could result in irrevocable public harm.
Madam
Thank you, Ms.
Secretary, this is Allison DeTonk, and I second that motion.
Is there any further discussion with the board members on the call? Well, we will now take the roll call vote. Carol?
Raymond Smoot. Bert Dodson.
Raymond?
Yes. Bert Dodson, yes.
Stephen Johnson. Mary?
Yes.
Greg Yates.
Yes.
Marty Williams. Dixon Whitworth.
Yes.
Allison DeTonk.
Yes.
John Malvin.
Yes. You must star 6. You must star 6.
Scott Kruitz.
Scott, we know you're
John?
there.
Aye.
Okay. Jerry Stinson.
John Malvin is aye.
Jerry Stinson.
I vote yes.
Chet Miller.
Yes.
Cedric Booker.
Yes, I did unmute myself several times. Yes. Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Yes.
Okay.
Raymond Smoot.
Raymond, star 6. Okay, Carol, is that it?
Is Mr. Smoot there? That's the complete roll call. I just haven't heard a response from Mr. Smoot.
Well, let's proceed. And anyway, okay. So that we are now, make sure to mute your lines. We are now going to Jennifer presentation on the Federal CARES Act. Jennifer, that was a really good presentation. Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Tom Alvin, so moved.
Allison, second.
Any further discussion from members of the board?
I have a question, Madam Secretary. This is Shep.
Hi. Yes, sir. What's your question?
Jennifer, help me understand whatever discretion is in this allocation formula in terms of what we're voting on, and then the discretion that you would have with the remaining funds. Just give me a consensus around that.
Sure. The funds, as we've apportioned them or recommending apportioning them right now, would be based on both an existing FTA formula that we've used in previous years. And for the rural funds, it would be based on, again, the formula that we use, which would be based on their FY20 operating funding. And that's a performance-based formula. Regarding the remainder of the funds under the 35%, we've recommended at this time that because we actually believe that 50% of these funds will enable the agencies to continue operating until or throughout FY21. And again, that's just an estimate at this point. But we would propose to withhold the remainder for a reserve in case there's any unanticipated needs. And again, those funds on the 5311 program can only be used for rural transit needs. So these funds can be used under the federal rules for up to 2 years if needed. So if and when we get to a point where the remainder needs to be allocated, we would be able to go ahead and do that and report back to the board.
So my question really revolves around the 35% that we were in the Secretary's discretion. Is there a reason we do that other than just ease and so forth, as opposed to coming back and allocating that funding, that's $18 million worth of funding in subsequent meetings?
We proposed that primarily for, because we are in an emergency situation, and if there was a need to be able to allocate those funds between meetings or when the board isn't in the position to act, that we could go ahead and provide the director with that authority, but then come and report back to the board afterwards. So.
I understand.
Jennifer, this is Allison. I have a quick question. The discussion brief, it mentions the urban transit agencies received funding from the Federal Transit Administration, and no action on behalf of the CTV is required for that. What formula did that follow, those distributions?
And that follows an existing formula that FTA uses nationwide for allocating funds to what they've designated as the large urban systems. And under that program, as we mentioned in the decision brief, those funds are sort of handled directly between FTA and those larger urban systems. So that includes, for example, WMATA, Hampton Roads Transit, and Richmond and Roanoke. Those fall under what's considered the large urban allocation formula.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm talking to myself. Alice and I had asked the same question, but it's all based on existing formulas that FTA uses going through Mamata and then to all the agencies. So is there anything else? Okay, Carol, will you take the roll? Carol?
Can you hear me now?
Now I can.
Okay. Steve Rucker,
Yes. Yes. Hello?
Yes, I heard you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Shep Miller,
Aye.
Jerry Stinson,
Aye.
Scott Kasperlitz,
Aye.
John Malvin,
Of course. Need to say.
Allison
John Malvin was aye.
Allison DeConte. Aye.
Dixon,
Dixon?
Aye. Yeah, I didn't. You know, it would be helpful, Carol, after you hear somebody, repeat who you hear and what their vote was.
okay. Marty Williams,
Whoever's laughing needs to go to mute.
Greg Yates.
Aye.
That's an aye for Greg Yates. Mary Hines.
Aye.
That's an aye for Mary Hines. Stephen Johnson.
Aye.
Aye for Mr. Johnson. Bert Dodson. Mr. Dodson.
Yes.
That's an aye for Mr. Dodson. Raymond Smoot.
Sure, if Raymond Spoon has been on the call. Okay. Thank you all. I am now going to turn it over to Commissioner Britch.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'll be bringing 2 action items for your consideration this morning. This may be a little painful for you because we're going to need to take each item separately and then have a roll call to be able to take the action on each individual item. The first item that we're bringing forward for your consideration is Order B77, which is the action on the Chatham Bridge Rehabilitation Project in the Fredericksburg District. What this is, and why we're bringing it to you, is that we feel that we cannot wait another month to be able to execute this contract or action on the bid based upon the condition of the bridge itself and the significant maintenance costs that it will have, as well as the economic impacts on the surrounding communities, certainly if we delay this by even 1 month. And this is predominantly due to the scheduling of the project and the time of year restrictions that would be put into place that we've been able to tightly negotiate with the Department of Game and Inland Fisheries and other regulatory agencies. A 1 month delay would cause a loss of one construction season on the back end. So having an additional closure will have significant impacts to the Fredericksburg community. So with that being said, what we're bringing forward to you, this project is a state of good repair superstructure replacement project on Route 3 over the Rappahannock River, commonly known as the Chatham Bridge. The bridge lies in the city of Fredericksburg in the Fredericksburg Construction District. I'm happy to report that we did receive 4 bids. The low bid on the project is in the range of the evaluative estimate, and our opinion is that the bid represents good market value as well as good value. So with that being said, we recommend award of the project.
Mr. Rucker?
Yes, this is Cedric Rucker from the Fredericksburg District. This structure is essential to the vibrancy, the commerce, the growth and development of the Fredericksburg region, and it is critical that we advance it at this time for the various reasons stated. Thus, I move that we, again, move forward with this motion.
Mr. Johnson, seconds.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Hi, this is Greg. Yeah, I have a question for the Commissioner. Seems to me in the past awards, we were given not just that it's within the range, but we were actually given the VDOT as bid estimate. Is that the case? And will we be able to see what the actual VDOT bid estimate was, or within the range from now on?
Madam Chair, what I'd say is I've got Harold Caples on the phone. Harold, can you answer that question for Mr. Yates? Harold, *6.
Yes, sir. I'm here. So what I would say to Mr. Yates is that we have been working over the last 6 months or so with several of the board members, Mr. Kasperitz, Mr. Melvin, on what is being shown and what isn't being shown on the actual ballot. And it was my understanding that as of right now, the ballot as presented to the board is how we will be moving forward regarding an estimate shown or not shown. So moving forward, it was my understanding that we will not be actually showing the design estimate as we had previously been communicating to the board.
And just curious, what's the reason for that?
It's my understanding that the subcommittee, I don't want to misspeak there, on the estimating research, if you will, as it pertains to our current metrics of within the range of both the evaluative estimate and the design estimate. It's my understanding that decision was an outcome of that subcommittee.
This is Scott Kasperwitz. I'd like to just interject a couple of comments. I haven't finalized this process because of our current situation, and I don't have a specific recollection of the discussion. It may have happened where we would not present that information. So I think at this point, it's best to say that this is a work in progress. It's been delayed, and from the outset, we've been focused on being as transparent and as providing as much useful information as we can to this board, and we'll continue to do that.
And Scott, I presume you're going to bring that to the board with a recommendation going forward when we get out of the situation.
Yes, there'll be discussion on this, and as I say, we're right at the point to start analyzing some of the information that had come in from the consultant, and of course we stopped meeting. So stand by on updates.
Okay, so are we able then to know what the actual bid VDOT estimate was then on this one?
I think that's a question for Harold, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am I'm attempting to pull that up out of the system as we speak. So just bear with me momentarily.
Mr. Yates?
Well,
Yes.
While
This is Bart Thrasher. Just to kind of give you an update on that. Back in October, we talked about looking at contractors' bids versus a design engineer's bid and our estimate.
Right.
And we, based upon that information, the designers' estimates that were coming in were really not comparing apples to apples with the contractor's bid. And so we would put on the contract bids to show whether or not the bids that we received from an outside contractor were within our plus or minus portion of that bid. So removing the designer's number, we still have that number, but we didn't feel like it was appropriate to be comparing a design versus a contractor's bid number.
I get that. I guess it's just sometimes they were so far off. I was just curious why that happened, and then sort of what you say plus or minus. What range are you using? 10%, 20%? I'm just curious.
Well, that's a question that Scott and John and I are working with now. But right now it stands as plus or minus 7%.
Okay, well that helps.
Mr. Malbin, is there anything you'd like to add to this discussion? I guess not.
And Madam Secretary, let me say that, Greg Yates again. I am certainly not opposed to this bid and will vote for it. I just was curious since that was not shown on the form. I didn't think we had adopted it yet. I just wanted to see what the price
and
was.
I will say that there has been no formal discussion about this. So I think it's really good. I'm glad that we're discussing this. I do believe that we need to have a formal presentation on this. So,
right.
and
Thank
as Mr. Caswood said, it's a work in progress. And so anyway, but the whole point is to try to make the data that we receive meaningful. So we want to do that and transparent. So we will address this and, find a way, hopefully, to do that. But there's been no formal decision on this. So with that, is there any other discussion or questions regarding this bid? Okay, Carol, you can take the roll.
Yes. Raymond Smoot. Bert Dotson.
Yes.
That's an aye for Bert Dotson. Stephen Johnson.
Aye.
It's an aye for Mr. Johnson. Mary Hines.
Aye.
Aye for Ms. Hines. Greg Yates.
Aye.
That's aye for Mr. Yates. Marty Williams. Dixon Whitworth.
Carol, I voted aye. This is Marty Williams.
That's an aye for Marty Williams. Mr. Whitworth.
Aye.
Aye for Mr. Whitworth. Allison DeTunk.
Aye.
Aye for Ms. Tunk. John Malvin.
Did you hear me? Carol, John Malvin, aye.
That's an aye for Mr. Malvin. Scott Kasprowitz.
Aye.
Aye for Mr. Kasprowitz. Jerry Stinson.
Aye.
Aye for Mr. Stinson. Shep Miller,
Aye.
it's an I for Miller. Cedric Rucker,
Aye.
it's an I.
Aye.
I for Mr. Rucker. That's the complete roll.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Commissioner Britt.
And our final action item this morning for you is Order D59, which is a smart scale realignment project on Route 460 in Bedford County in the Salem Construction District. We received 3 bids on this project, all within the evaluated estimate. Our opinion, again, represents that the bid represents market value and good value overall, and our record is support of the project. The reason why we're bringing this project forth during this emergency meeting is because this project bid letting was February 26th of this year, and we have 60 days to act on it. These bids are due to expire on the 26th of April of this year as well. And the apparent low bidder will no longer have to honor their bids if we do not take action. So again, we view this as being, our opinion is that the bid received market value and good for the Commonwealth. And again, our recommendation is to award the project.
Thank you, Commissioner Britt. To my knowledge, I don't believe Mr. Smoot is on the call, but I'm going to just give him a second just in case.
Madam Secretary, this is Greg Yates. I'll recommend approval if Mr. Smoot's not on the call.
Okay,
This is Cedric Rucker. I'll second.
This is Jerry Stinson. I'll second that.
Carol, did you get who seconded it?
I did. I do know that Mr. Smoot can hear us. We can't hear him.
Okay. Okay, so we will take the motion. Yates. I'm not sure who made the second, but Carol does. Any other further dissent on this project? Okay, Carol, will you take the roll?
I will. Cedric Rucker,
Aye.
that's an I for Mr. Rucker. Shep Miller,
Aye.
that's an I for Mr. Miller. Jerry Stinson,
Aye.
that's an Johnson. Scott Casper,
Aye.
that's an I for Mr. Casper.
Aye, John Mulvin, aye.
An I for Mr. Malvin.
Aye.
An I for Mr. Dixon Whitworth.
Aye.
An I for Mr. Whitworth. Marty Williams.
Aye.
An I for Mr. Greg Yates.
Aye.
An I for Mr. Yates. Mary Hines.
Aye.
An I for Ms. Hines. Stephen Johnson.
Aye.
An I for Mr. Johnson. Bert Dodson.
Aye.
An I for Mr. Dodson. Raymond Smoot.
Aye.
That's an I for Mr. Smoot. That's the complete roll.
Thank you. And good morning, Mr. Smoot. We just couldn't hear you.
Good morning. I've heard the entire meeting, and I thought I voted in favor of everything, and thank you.
Okay. With that, Julie Whitlock, I believe that concludes our meeting. I just want to remind everyone that tomorrow is the reconvened session of the General Assembly, which should be very interesting. We will be providing an update to you on the outcome of the transportation amendments and legislation. We'll be providing that to you probably in the coming days, perhaps next week, from our team. And before I leave, is there anything else from anyone on the call?
Madam Secretary, it's Mary Hines. Just a question. about the General Assembly session tomorrow. Hearing rumors that they may take some actions around electronic meetings to broaden the scope. Is that something that would apply to our board or not?
It would, if you depending on, I hate to make a blanket statement, but if there are decisions made regarding electronic meetings, that would, of course, impact the Commonwealth Transportation Board as well.
And this is
Thank you.
Julie Whitlock, if I may, Madam Secretary. I understand that some language has been proposed in the caboose budget bill, and that's where the action would be.
Would you, Julie, like to share the language that's being proposed?
I don't have it right in front of me, but I believe what it says is basically that all public meetings during the state of emergency can be held electronically without a quorum present. So it would essentially remove the restrictions around what could be.
So, Mary, your question is very good. So anyway, we shall see how tomorrow goes. May not be quite as exciting as it was during our last reconvened session. We are hoping not, but it should be a very interesting day. So we'll make sure to get you updates from that. With that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Really thank everyone for working with us. And again, the good news is that we're all in it together. So I thank you again. Have a good day.
Be safe. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Be safe, be well, everyone.
Goodbye.